The bullet shattered the window 3 inches from Wyatt Earp's head, spraying glass across his bloodied face. 40 rifles blazed from the darkness outside, turning the Tombstone jailhouse into a coffin of splintering wood and screaming lead. His brother Virgil lay bleeding behind an overturned desk. Morgan counted their remaining bullets. 17 rounds between 3 men against an army that wouldn't stop until dawn painted the streets red. The gang leader's voice cut through the gunfire like a blade. "Earp, you got 2 choices. Open that door or we burn you out." Wyatt's hand tightened on his Colt, his jaw set like iron. They wanted a war. They'd chosen the wrong man to corner. Before we dive deeper into this brutal tale of survival, if you're loving this intense Western storytelling, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss another epic showdown. Share this with someone who loves a good gunfight and drop a comment telling me, could you survive 12 hours surrounded by 40 outlaws? Now let's get back to Tombstone, where Wyatt Earp is about to face the longest night of his life. 24 hours earlier, Tombstone was just another dusty speck on the Arizona Territory map, where the biggest excitement was watching tumbleweeds race down Allen Street. Wyatt Earp stood behind the bar of his establishment, the Oriental Saloon, polishing glasses that never seemed to get clean no matter how hard he tried. The late afternoon sun sliced through the batwing doors, painting golden stripes across the worn floorboards where countless boots had scuffed away the varnish over the years. His brothers, Virgil and Morgan, sat at a corner table playing cards, their laughter cutting through the piano's melancholy tune. Virgil wore the town marshal's badge pinned to his vest, the silver catching the light every time he moved. Morgan, the youngest of the 3, shuffled the deck with practiced ease, his quick hands a blur of motion. The smell of whiskey, tobacco, and sawdust hung heavy in the air, the perfume of the frontier. Behind the bar, bottles lined the shelves like soldiers at attention, their amber contents promising either courage or catastrophe, depending on the man doing the drinking. A handful of regulars nursed their drinks, their conversations a low murmur, barely audible above the piano. Outside, the temperature had climbed past 90 degrees, turning Tombstone's main street into a shimmering ribbon of heat. Horses stood tied to hitching posts, their tails swishing at persistent flies. The town seemed to drowse in the oppressive heat, unaware that in less than 6 hours it would transform into a battlefield. Wyatt had learned long ago that peace in the West was just violence taking a breath. He'd worn the badge in Dodge City and Wichita, seen enough blood to paint every building in Tombstone red twice over. But something felt different today. Call it instinct, call it experience. The air tasted wrong, like the moment before lightning strikes. He was right to worry. The stranger rode into town just as the church bell tolled 5 times, each chime echoing through the empty streets like a countdown to something inevitable. Wyatt noticed him immediately. You don't survive as long as he had without developing eyes in the back of your head. The man sat tall in his saddle, dust coating his black duster like a second skin, his face hidden beneath the wide brim of a weather-beaten hat. But it wasn't just one rider. Behind him came another, then 3 more, then a dozen, 20, 30, they kept coming, materializing from the heat shimmer like ghosts rising from the desert itself, until 40 horses stood in a semicircle across Tombstone's main street, their riders silent as tombstones. The piano music died mid-note. Conversation stopped. Even the flies seemed to pause their buzzing. Wyatt's hand moved instinctively toward the Colt, holstered at his hip, his fingers brushing the worn grip that had saved his life more times than he could count. "Virgil," he said quietly, never taking his eyes off the riders. "We got company." His brother stood slowly, the chair scraping against the floor loud enough to make 2 patrons flinch. Morgan's hand disappeared beneath the table, no doubt wrapping around his revolver. The 3 Earp brothers had faced down plenty of trouble before, but 40 armed men. That was an army. The lead rider dismounted with the fluid grace of a man who'd spent more years in the saddle than on solid ground. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with a scar running from his left eye to his jaw, the kind of mark a man earned by surviving something that should have killed him. His boots hit the dirt with heavy thuds as he walked toward the saloon, his spurs jingling a death march rhythm. Wyatt Earp. His voice carried like thunder across a canyon, deep and rough as gravel. "I'm here for my brother, Jack Harden. You got him locked up in your jail, and I'm here to take him home." Wyatt stepped around the bar, his movements deliberate and controlled. Through the door, he could see the other riders forming a tighter circle, cutting off every escape route. They weren't just here to negotiate. They were here to take what they wanted. One way or another, Jack Harden murdered 3 people in cold blood, Wyatt said, his voice carrying that calm authority that made dangerous men think twice. Shot a shopkeeper and his wife over $20, then killed a ranch hand who witnessed it. He's staying right where he is until the circuit judge arrives next week to hang him proper. The scarred man who could only be Cole Hardin. The outlaw whose name was whispered in frightened tones from Texas to California smiled without humor. His teeth were surprisingly white against his sun-darkened skin. "See, that's where we got a problem, Marshal. Jack's the only family I got left. Lost our pa to cholera, our ma to the Comanche, and our sister to a snake oil salesman who left her dying in a ditch. I ain't about to lose Jack to a rope." "Should have thought about that before he became a killer," Virgil interjected. His marshal's badge catching the dying sunlight, Cole's eyes shifted to Virgil, then to Morgan, calculating odds with the cold precision of a man who'd planned dozens of raids and robberies. "I counted. 3 of you, 40 of us. We got rifles, dynamite, and all the patience in the world. Sun's going down in about an hour. Once it's dark, we're coming in. You can hand Jack over peaceful-like, or we can paint this whole damn town red. Your choice." Wyatt felt the weight of every decision he'd ever made pressing down on his shoulders. He'd worn the badge because someone had to stand between chaos and civilization, between the strong who took what they wanted and the weak who couldn't fight back. If he gave up Jack Harden, what good was the law? What good was justice? But if he didn't, how many innocent people would die in the crossfire? "You got until dark to think it over," Cole said, turning to leave. "That's about an hour. After that, we start shooting, and Earp, we got enough men and ammunition to turn that jailhouse into kindling and everyone inside it into corpses. Don't make us do it the hard way." As Cole mounted his horse and the 40 riders spread out to encircle the town, Wyatt exchanged looks with his brothers. No words were needed. They'd been in tight spots before. Dodge City, the cattle wars, a dozen saloon brawls that should have killed them. But this was different. This was a siege. Virgil moved to the door, scanning the positions of the outlaws, now taking up spots behind water troughs, corners of buildings, anywhere that offered cover, and a clear line of fire to the jailhouse 2 buildings down. "They're boxing us in. Got men on every rooftop, every alley. They do this professional-like." Cole Hardin didn't build his reputation by being sloppy, Wyatt said, his mind already racing through options like a chess player 3 moves ahead. "Morgan, how many rounds we got?" "In the jail? Maybe 60 rifle cartridges, another 40 for the revolvers. Not nearly enough. Then we better make every shot count." Wyatt grabbed his rifle from behind the bar, checking the chamber with practiced efficiency. "We got an hour before this town turns into hell. Let's make sure we're ready." The sun dropped toward the horizon like a blood-red coin falling into the earth's slot, and with every minute that passed, Tombstone transformed from a town into a trap. Wyatt, Virgil, and Morgan moved quickly through the lengthening shadows, their boots pounding the boardwalk as they made their way to the jailhouse. Jack Harden sat in the single cell, his fingers wrapped around the iron bars, a smile playing at the corners of his mouth. "Sounds like my brother came calling," he drawled, his voice dripping with mock innocence. "Told you boys I wouldn't hang." "Shut your mouth," Morgan snapped, slamming the cell door's outer shutter closed, cutting off Jack's view of the office. The jailhouse was small, just one room with a desk, a gun rack now empty with all the rifles distributed, and the cell in the back. 2 windows faced the street, already being barricaded with whatever furniture they could move. Wyatt positioned himself at the front window, peering through a gap in the hastily constructed barricade. The outlaws had spread out with military precision. He counted 8 on rooftops with rifles, another dozen behind cover in the street, and the rest positioned in alleys where they could pour fire from multiple angles. Cole Hardin himself stood in the center of the street, casually rolling a cigarette as if he had all the time in the world. Because he did. "They're going to hit us from 3 sides at once," Virgil observed, joining Wyatt at the window. His marshal's badge seemed heavier now, a target painted on his chest. "Front door, both windows, maybe try to breach the back wall. Standard outlaw tactics, overwhelm and overrun. Then we make them pay for every inch," Wyatt said, his voice hard as the iron bars holding Jack Hardin. He'd been in sieges before, knew that survival came down to 3 things: ammunition, position, and nerve. They were short on the first, decent on the second, and he'd never met an Earp who lacked the third. Morgan began stacking ammunition on the desk, 17 boxes of rifle cartridges, 6 boxes of revolver rounds. He did the math quickly, his lips moving silently. "If this goes all night, we're looking at maybe 2 shots per man if we're conservative. 3 if we're lucky, and they're stupid." "They're not stupid," Wyatt muttered, watching Cole Hardin light his cigarette, the match flare briefly illuminating that scarred face. "That's what worries me." The church bell chimed 6 times. The last light was dying, painting the sky in shades of purple and crimson that looked too much like bruises and blood. Across the street, lanterns began to light in windows as townspeople secured their homes, knowing what was coming. Some families were already fleeing, their wagons rattling south toward Benson, away from the coming storm. Wyatt didn't blame them. Smart people ran from trouble. Fools like him ran toward it wearing a badge. "Earp!" Cole Hardin's voice shattered the tense silence. "Your hour's up. Last chance to walk away from this with your lives. Send Jack out and we ride away peaceful." Wyatt moved to the doorway, standing in the frame so Cole could see him clearly. The distance between them was maybe 50 yards, an easy shot for a decent rifleman, suicide for Wyatt if Cole decided talking time was over. But there were rules in the West, codes that even outlaws followed. You didn't shoot a man who came to parley, usually. Jack Hardin murdered 3 people. Wyatt called back. "Law says he hangs. You want him, you'll have to come through me." Cole took a long drag on his cigarette, the ember glowing like a demon's eye in the gathering darkness. "Was hoping you'd say that, Earp. Been wanting to test that reputation of yours. They say you're the toughest lawman in the West. Let's see if you bleed like everyone else." He raised his hand, and 40 rifles lifted in unison, a forest of steel aimed at the jailhouse. Wyatt stepped back inside, his heart pounding but his hands steady. This was it. The moment when everything you were, every choice, every value, every ounce of courage, got tested in fire and lead. "Brothers," he said quietly, looking at Virgil and Morgan, seeing his own determination reflected in their eyes. "Whatever happens tonight, I'm honored to stand with you." "Wouldn't be anywhere else," Morgan replied. Jacking around into his Winchester, Virgil just nodded, positioning himself at the side window, his rifle barrel resting on the barricade. "See you on the other side, one way or another." Cole Hardin's voice cut through the night, one last time. "Light 'em up, boys!" The world exploded. 40 rifles opened fire simultaneously, a thunderclap of violence that shattered windows, splintered wood, and filled the air with the scream of bullets. The jailhouse shuddered under the impact, dust raining from the ceiling, the smell of gunpowder flooding through every crack and gap. Glass exploded inward, showering the floor with glittering shards that crunched under boots. Wyatt returned fire, his rifle bucking against his shoulder, the muzzle flash illuminating his grim face for a split second. Across the street, an outlaw screamed and fell from a rooftop, his rifle clattering to the ground. When down, 39 to go, Virgil fired twice in rapid succession, methodical and precise. Another outlaw grabbed his shoulder and stumbled back into shadow. Morgan worked his lever action like a machine, forcing the attackers to keep their heads down. But for every shot the Earps fired, a dozen came back. Bullets punched through the walls, through the barricades, through everything. The desk splintered. The gun rack disintegrated. A round passed so close to Wyatt's head, he felt the heat of it. Another tugging at his sleeve hard enough to spin him halfway around. In the cell, Jack Harden was screaming something, but his words were lost in the cacophony of death. This wasn't a fight. This was survival, pure and simple. The kind where you counted seconds instead of minutes, where every breath might be your last, where the only prayer that mattered was that your ammunition lasted longer than their patience. The siege had begun, and it would only end when the sun rose or the Earp brothers stopped breathing. 2 hours into the siege, the jailhouse looked like something out of a nightmare. Bullet holes riddled every surface, some punched clean through both walls. The front door hung on one hinge, swaying with each impact. Smoke from gunpowder hung thick as fog, burning eyes and lungs. Blood streaked the floor where Morgan had taken a grazing shot to his ribs, painful but not fatal. Wrapped tight with torn shirt fabric, Wyatt's rifle barrel glowed hot, the metal singing a dangerous tune every time he fired. They'd dropped 8 outlaws so far, but Cole Harden's men kept coming, kept shooting, kept the pressure relentless. The ammunition boxes on the desk told a grim story, more than half empty, and dawn was still 4 hours away. "We can't keep this up," Morgan shouted over the gunfire, reloading his revolver with practiced speed, despite the blood soaking his side. "We're down to maybe 30 rounds total." Virgil fired twice, shattering a lantern across the street and plunging a group of outlaws into darkness. "Then we make them think we got hundreds. Spread your shots. Keep them guessing." Wyatt's mind raced through options like a desperate gambler, shuffling cards, looking for the winning hand. They couldn't run, the building was surrounded. They couldn't surrender, Cole would kill them anyway, law badge be damned. They couldn't outlast them, the ammunition math didn't lie. Then he saw it. The dynamite. Cole Harden's men were moving something toward the jailhouse. 2 outlaws crouched low, carrying a crate between them. Even in the darkness, Wyatt recognized the distinctive shape, the way they handled it with excessive care. They were going to blow the building apart, bury the Earps in rubble and splinters. Dynamite, he yelled, drawing a bead on the closest carrier. His shot rang out, catching the man in the shoulder. The outlaw screamed, dropped his end of the crate, but his partner held on, dragging it forward another few feet before diving behind a water trough. "We got maybe 3 minutes before they light that fuse," Virgil said grimly, firing at shadows that seemed to multiply in the darkness. "Once that goes off, we ain't gonna be here when it does," Wyatt interrupted, a desperate plan forming in his mind. It was insane, suicidal, but staying put was guaranteed death, and dying on your feet beats dying on your knees every single time. He grabbed Morgan's shoulder. "You remember that trick we pulled in Dodge? The one with the back door and the horses?" Morgan's eyes widened. "That was 3 men, Wyatt. This is 40. You got a better idea, I'm listening." Silence, except for the constant percussion of bullets hitting wood. "Didn't think so. Here's what we do." Wyatt laid it out fast. They had maybe 2 minutes before that dynamite turned the jailhouse into kindling. It was crazy enough that it might actually work, which in Wyatt's experience meant it probably wouldn't. "But you played the hand you were dealt." Virgil and Morgan nodded. Understanding passing between brothers who'd faced death together so many times, it was practically an old friend. They moved quickly, Wyatt grabbing the jail's back door key, Virgil covering the front, Morgan gathering their remaining ammunition into saddlebags. In the cell, Jack Harden had gone silent, finally understanding that his brother's rescue attempt might kill him just as dead as a hangman's noose. "On my count," Wyatt said, watching through the shattered window as an outlaw crept toward the dynamite crate with a lit match. The flame danced like a tiny devil in the darkness. 3, 2, he kicked open the back door, not to escape, but to create a diversion. The door swung wide, and immediately a dozen rifles opened fire on it, outlaws thinking the Earps were making a break for it. 1. But instead of running out the back, all 3 brothers charged out the front door, straight into the teeth of the siege, firing as they moved. The shock of it, the sheer audacity, bought them 2 seconds of stunned silence from Cole Harden's men. 2 seconds where 40 outlaws stared in disbelief at 3 lawmen running directly at them instead of away. 2 seconds was all they needed. Wyatt's first shot hit the outlaw with the match, sending him sprawling. The match flew from his fingers, landing 3 feet from the dynamite crate. Virgil and Morgan laid down covering fire, their rifles barking in rhythm as they sprinted toward the horses tied at the hitching post across the street. Cole Hardin recovered first, his voice cutting through the chaos. "Kill them! Kill them all!" The night erupted again, but now the Earps were moving targets, harder to hit, using the darkness and surprise as weapons. Wyatt felt a bullet tear through his coat, another kick up dust by his boot. He kept firing, kept moving, reached the horses and vaulted into a saddle without breaking stride. Morgan took a hit to the arm, but stayed mounted, his teeth gritted against the pain. Virgil's hat flew off, a bullet passing through the crown, but he was already spurring his horse forward, and then the dynamite exploded. The blast lit up the night like a second sun, a rolling thunderclap that shattered windows 3 buildings away. The jailhouse, what was left of it, erupted in a geyser of wood, stone, and flame. Outlaws caught too close were thrown like rag dolls, their screams lost in the roar. In the chaos, the Earps rode hard, bullets chasing them into the desert darkness. Cole Hardin's voice screamed orders, but half his men were deaf from the blast, another quarter scattered by falling debris. The perfect siege had turned into pandemonium. They rode for an hour, putting miles between them and Tombstone, until finally Wyatt pulled up near a rocky outcrop that offered cover. All 3 brothers were bleeding from various wounds, none fatal, but enough to paint their shirts dark in the moonlight. "Jack Hardin?" Morgan asked between gasps for breath. "Dead!" Wyatt said flatly. "Was in that cell when the dynamite went off. Cole just killed his own brother trying to save him." The irony wasn't lost on any of them. Sometimes justice came from unexpected places, delivered by the very people trying to prevent it. In the distance, they could see fires burning in Tombstone, hear the faint sounds of confusion and retreat. Cole Hardin's gang was breaking apart, leaderless and broken, their carefully planned siege turned into a disaster. "We going back?" Virgil asked, already knowing the answer. Wyatt looked at the stars, at the vast desert stretching in every direction, then back toward Tombstone. "Yeah, we're going back. That's our town, our people. And somebody's got to rebuild that jailhouse." 3 days later, Wyatt stood in front of what remained of the Tombstone jailhouse, a hammer in his hand and a new plank of wood balanced on his shoulder. The town had rallied, bringing lumber, nails, sweat, and determination. What Cole Hardin's gang had tried to destroy, the people of Tombstone would rebuild, stronger this time. Virgil's arm was in a sling, but he worked one-handed alongside the carpenter. Morgan's ribs were wrapped tight, but he hauled boards without complaint. The scars they carried now were just additions to a collection earned over years of standing between chaos and order. Doc Miller, the town physician, had patched them up with the same words he always did. "You Earp boys got more lives than a barn full of cats. But you keep testing that theory, you'll run out eventually. Maybe, but not today." The territorial governor had sent a telegram. Brief and to the point, Cole Hardin gang scattered. 8 dead, 12 captured, rest fled to Mexico. Jack Hardin confirmed dead in explosion. Reward money being processed. Well done, well done. As if it were just another day at the office. As if they hadn't spent 12 hours thinking every breath might be their last. A young boy approached Wyatt, maybe 10 years old, his eyes wide with admiration. "Mr. Earp, is it true? You rode straight at 40 outlaws?" Wyatt set down his hammer, kneeling to meet the boy at eye level. His face was serious, the way it got when he had something important to say. "Son, bravery ain't about not being scared. It's about doing what needs doing even when you're terrified. My brothers and I, we were scared. But we had a job to do, and people depending on us. Sometimes that's all that matters." The boy nodded solemnly, processing this. "When I grow up, I want to be just like you." "No," Wyatt said gently but firmly. "You grow up to be better than me. Be the kind of man who builds things instead of tearing them down. Be the kind who settles arguments with words instead of bullets. The West is changing, son. In 20 years, there won't be room for men like me anymore. And that's a good thing. He stood, ruffling the boy's hair, then returned to his work. Around him, Tombstone was healing, rebuilding, moving forward the way frontier towns always did. Resilient, stubborn, refusing to stay down. That night, sitting on the porch of his saloon with Virgil and Morgan, watching the stars paint silver across the desert sky, Wyatt allowed himself a rare moment of reflection. They'd survived when survival seemed impossible. They'd stood their ground when running made more sense. They'd been willing to die for what they believed in, and somehow, miraculously, they'd lived instead. Think Cole Hardin learned his lesson? Morgan asked, sipping whiskey carefully to avoid aggravating his bruised ribs. Men like that don't learn, Virgil replied. They just find new ways to be stupid. Wyatt smiled, a small thing but genuine. Maybe, but tonight justice won. The law held, and 3 brothers are still breathing. I'll take that. The lesson was simple, carved into the very bones of the West. Stand for something or fall for anything. The Earps had stood, and Tombstone was still standing with them sometimes. That's all the victory you need. If you enjoyed this tale of courage, survival and brotherhood in the Old West, don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit that notification bell. Share this story with fellow Western fans and drop a comment below. What would you have done in Wyatt's boots? Could you have survived the siege that almost ended the legendary lawman? Until next time, keep riding toward justice, and remember, the sun always rises on those brave enough to face the darkness.